What's up, guys? Today, I'm going to be going over the NFC South. Before we get there, a few different things. So, episode after this is going to wrap up our divisional breakdowns. It'll be the NFC West, and then we're going to have top 15 quarterbacks episode for the fantasy season upcoming. And then after that, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, so on and so forth. And then that should take us up right to the beginning of the season. Then at the season, I'm going to be, I don't want to say experimenting with a few different things, but, it's not like I'm just going to come out right away and have the exact topics on hand, right? This is what we're going to talk about each day, each week, okay? Now, I'm definitely going to have my game of the week and, just breakdowns on some games that I'm excited to see, some players I'm excited to see. But once the season gets here, well, we'll just see what works best, We'll adapt and we'll move on. So, NFC South. Now, while there's, one good team in this division, the Saints aren't bad, but really there's one good team in the division, the Bucks. It kind of makes me, it's kind of boring to talk about. Like it's not boring to talk about the Panthers just because, Baker Mayfield's going there. There's a lot of talks about CMC right now, injuries and stuff. So it's not boring to talk about them, but we know that they're not going to be in the playoffs, right? We know that. No way around it. Panthers won't be in the playoffs. Falcons, they're just going to be awful, like just straight garbage. So while the Bucks and the Saints are a little bit interesting, and the Panthers are interesting, but we know that they're not going to win a lot of games. I don't know. It's just not the most exciting division, and I think we can all agree on that. But to hop right into it, I got the Bucks winning, of course, 12 wins. And, recently Julio Jones has, signed with the Bucks, and he's going to be a wide receiver there. And we all know that Julio Jones, was a beast in his prime, right? And it seems like coming into this season, people are very skeptical on Julio. Kind of maybe that he's washed, But last season he dealt with a lot of injury, so I wouldn't count him out yet. Now, talking about Julio, I want to switch over and talk about Antonio Brown. So, the past 2 years, Antonio Brown at the Bucks, we, before each season, there wasn't really a lot of optimism around Antonio Brown. I know last season, especially, nobody was really that big on Antonio Brown. And, he was viewed as kind of just, a guy that Tom Brady likes. And so, Brady will bring him in and, he might have a good game here, but he's not going to do anything. And I know we all saw what happened with the demise of Antonio Brown leaving the Bucks last year, mid-game. But in the games that he did play, nobody expected him to do what he ended up doing, right? He had some really good games last year. His first game against the Cowboys, he had like 5 receptions for 129 yards, which that alone is crazy. I think he had a touchdown as well. And so with the wide receiver room in Tampa Bay this season, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio, Russell Gage, we've seen Chris Godwin towards ACL last year, right? Might not be back until October-ish, November, but he's practicing right now. He's padded up, he's practicing. So who knows? He could be out there week 1. I'd be a little weary if he is, a little hesitant if he is. I mean, if he's good to go, then I trust those people, that he is good to go. I would just hate for him to rush back and not be fully healed and just make a bad choice there. But whether or not he does rush back, whether or not he is fully healed, comes back week 1, or waits it out, I don't think that's going to affect Julio being a great wide receiver 2 on your fantasy football team. And I mean, you can get Julio in like the 9th or 10th round right now. So I think it's kind of crazy, some of the guys that are going ahead of Julio still in those redraft leagues. And I think Julio's going to be a good wide receiver this year. I don't think that he is washed. I think last year we saw him injured, and we saw him deal with injury. I think that's going to change this year. I think he'll come out. I think he'll have quite a few good games. And I don't want to see people kind of just give him that title of washed. He's not going to do anything. Whenever people were also pessimistic, didn't have high hopes for Antonio Brown, yet whenever he played very well, and he was catching balls and he was putting up yardage and getting touchdowns. So there's also this thing going on right now around Tom Brady, right, where he has stepped away for like 2 weeks, and Flores is saying that it's something they had agreed upon, something that they talked about a while ago, and that they knew this was going to happen, they knew this was going to come. And other people, I've heard other analysts, some football guys say this, that their starting center got injured. Now, thankfully, it wasn't anything serious. I think he just, twisted his ankle, had somebody step on his foot or something like that. And then Russell Gage got injured. Now, thankfully, that wasn't anything serious either. Basically, same thing, right? I don't remember specifics. So many injury reports coming out of training camps and practices. I mean, and now the preseason. And it's almost like all of them this year, except for, a couple, have been, this player's gone down with an injury and is being carted off. And then, actually, I think the center, Tom Brady's center, the Tampa Bay Bucs center, I think he was just cramping really bad. I think that's what it was. And, Russell Gage, the report, Russell Gage down with injury. Then it comes out that I think Russell Gage is the one that got stepped on. Yeah, that's right. And so, Chris Godwin, sure, he is practicing now, but they're not letting him go 100% in practice. And I think, with all that going on around Tom, I honestly have heard guys say, they think, well, he's just, his dudes aren't there, so why would he be there at this point in his career? And I hope that's the case. But one thing I haven't heard anybody bring up, and it's kind of been on the back of my mind, and, maybe I haven't heard anybody bring it up because I'm just going down a rabbit hole, but, we saw this whole thing come out where the NFL fined the Dolphins all those future draft picks, and it's because it was free agent tampering. So they were trying to get Tom Brady to come. They were trying to get Sean Payton to come. I am wondering, what if this is something that's going on behind the shadows right now, where Tom Brady might be in some trouble? They might be looking at him for tampering, for these moves that were supposedly going to happen and that are currently being looked into. And what if a suspension comes from that? Now, like I said, I hope I'm just going down a rabbit hole with that. I hope that there is no punishment coming towards Brady for that because I love watching Tom Brady play. But what if? That's one thing I haven't heard any of the other guys bring up. Like, what if this is something going on behind the scenes, investigation-wise, from the NFL that is, getting pretty serious with the whole tampering situation and the Miami Dolphins. Now, to change it up, talk a little bit more about fantasy, I want to talk about Leonard Fournette on this team, okay? And why is everybody down on Leonard Fournette this year? Now, I know that he's, going second round, right? Halfway through the second round in drafts, and you're just redraft leagues. But it's like people don't want Leonard Fournette this year. It's like a lot of people are looking at him right there and they're thinking, well, I need a running back, and he might not be the guy that I want, but I feel like I have to take him right here in this spot anyways. And it's not making any sense to me, okay? I think we should be a little bit more optimistic on Fournette. So last season, he averaged 4.9 receptions per game. 4.9, almost 5. All right? Off of those receptions, he had 32.5 yards per game. So his reception yards per game, the average, 32.5, 32 and a half yards per game. 4.9 receptions per game. Okay? And he also had 10 total touchdowns. 2 receiving touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns. That's, I play PPR, point per reception. I think if you're playing half PPR, no PPR, I think you're a chump, if I'm being honest. Now, I say that because I just think PPR is the way to go, right? Kind of catch up with the times, sort of a sense. If you're not playing PPR, what are you doing? Do you really enjoy fantasy? And I think half PPR is almost absurd because it's like, well, we want to do full PPR, but we just won't. For what reason, I have no idea. Just do full PPR, okay? It's the way to go. All right? So, almost 5 receptions per game from the running back spot by Leonard Fournette. Now, let's look at somebody from last year who, we look back and we're like, oh, check down king, right? That quarterback was just always tossing it to that running back. And if you haven't caught on now, I'm talking about Big Ben and Najee Harris, right? And I love Najee. I think Najee's a solid, good running back. If you're playing in a dynasty league, then don't consider this, okay? Take Najee, all right? Not Fournette. But if you're just in your redraft league, which is what we're talking about here, listen to this stat. So I already talked about the average receptions per game for Fournette. Now compare that to Najee's, whose was lower, even though we talk about him being the bell cow, Big Ben always going to him, the running back that was used the most. He had 4.35 receptions per game. All right, that's less than Fournette, who didn't have a quarterback that couldn't throw the ball downfield, who had a quarterback who has a strong, really good arm, and it's not going anywhere. Tom Brady's got an arm. He's got a cannon, boys. But Harris, 4.35 receptions per game. Now, he also had 10 touchdowns. 3 of his came from receptions and 7 from rushing, but he had 27.5 yards per game. That was his average yards per game in the catching, in the receptions. All right? Leonard Fournette's was 32.5. So that is like what? 5 more yards per game from the receptions alone. All right, now if we look at the rushing, then these stats get a little bit weird because Najee had 307 attempts. Okay? I mean, that's crazy. That's a lot of attempts. And Leonard Fournette, I don't remember exactly. He only had like 170, somewhere around there. But still, if you took the average for Fournette, his average yards per carry, and you gave him 307 attempts last season, he would have had like 175 more yards than Najee. But once again, I'll say this. I love both running backs. I think both running backs are good. Both running backs are solid. Redraft this season, because I think Najee's workload is going to go down. I think I'd rather have Leonard Fournette this year over Najee. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about the Saints. So I've got the Bucs winning 12 games. I've got the Saints coming in second, winning 9 games. All right. And so last year, Jameis Winston played really 6.5 games. He got injured in his 7th game, but just going to full 7 games, he went 95 for 161. That was 59 completion percentage. That's not that great, 59%. This year, though, I think Jameis is going to be in the high 60s, mid to high 60s, really around 67 to 69%. Why do I have that? Well, Michael Thomas, right? We're hearing the reports that Michael Thomas is looking like a beast in training camp. Do I think that he'll ever be the Mike Thomas of old? No, not even close. Jarvis Landry, the wide receiver room, it's looking better, okay? Michael Thomas back, Jarvis Landry, and then adding a young Chris Olave, okay? And then also Alvin Kamara. I think those weapons around Jameis a full season, especially if things go the way that people are predicting for Michael Thomas, I think that completion percentage will go up quite a bit. Now, like I said, I don't think that Michael Thomas is going to be anything like he used to be, but I think all of these receivers have their moments, have their games. I think Michael Thomas will probably end up having more games, but I think all of these receivers are going to really help this team look better offensively, because we know the Saints defense is always going to hold up, right? And with Drew Brees, their offense really always held up as well. But post Drew Brees, I think this season we see a Saints offense that's more efficient, runs the ball better, passes the ball better, has a better completion percentage, is able to switch it up and attack different ways better because of this wide receiver core and Alvin Kamara. All right? And, of course, that defense is going to win them some games this year. They wouldn't be winning 9 games, I don't think, without that defense. So, I'm notorious for only liking Alvin Kamara from the Saints, right? I'm not a Saints guy. I'll just put it out there. I almost despise the Saints. But I've always liked Alvin Kamara. I don't know. He looks good in that black and gold. All right, he looks hard in that, especially with that grill. I like Alvin Kamara. I think he's a really good running back. And I think for this team to kind of do what I'm projecting, he's got to be the glue. All right, I don't think that Winston's percentage goes up, his completion percentage goes up, unless Kamara is that guy. Kamara is making the defense second guess, right? They're always scared of the run, but, Jameis is going to surprise them, and he's going to be able to complete the ball. He's going to be able to move the ball downfield. And, of course, what's Alvin Kamara great at? He's great at catching the ball. So that's a threat right there. And I think if Alvin Kamara is the glue, he comes out and he's got a good season, then I think it's a recipe to succeed for the Saints. And I think that glue is Alvin Kamara. If Alvin Kamara falls apart this season, then I don't see it happening. But I think Alvin Kamara, without a suspension, which it doesn't look like he will be suspended this year, I think that the Saints have an efficient offense. So now let's move on to the Panthers. Got the Panthers winning 6 games, okay? And I did this 2 ways. CMC doesn't stay healthy, CMC stays healthy. So if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, I've got them winning 9 games. Here's the kicker. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to stay healthy. All right? And it's like crazy to say that, it seems like. You listen to some of these NFL analysts, some of these fantasy football guys, and it's like nobody wants to say that Christian McCaffrey is injury prone. Look at like the past 3 years, people. The dude is injury prone, okay? He'll show up week 1, and everybody's going to be like, oh, Christian McCaffrey, he's back. But he's going to get injured this season, okay? I'm not going to shove these lies at you and tell you to draft him number 1 or number 2 overall. I think it's absolutely absurd, okay? Make him prove it at this point, people. Why do we have to be so hesitant on saying a player is injury prone? And we've all heard it, well, you can't really say he's injury prone because this injury that he last suffered is not one that usually tends to get re-injured. It doesn't matter. It's something different with the guy every year. Let's move on. If you want to take him in the first round, take him with the last 2 picks in the first round. All right? Stop letting this guy be in our top 3 ADP, people. Come on. It's a joke. All right? Make him prove something. And I've heard the argument of, well, you won't win fantasy championships unless you take the risk. It's not even a risk at this point. It's a for sure 100% thing. I mean, what is it? I think it's really been 3 or 4 seasons in a row. All right? Let's give up. Okay? I will not. I haven't taken Christian McCaffrey once in any fantasy football league. All right? Now, granted, whenever he was really in his prime and not getting hurt, I never had the number 1 pick, or else I probably would have. But since this injury stuff's been happening, dude, keep me away from him. You think I want that guy? No. Not even close. Okay? Anyways, so another person to talk about on the Panthers, is DJ Moore. And a lot of people think, well, can he actually break the 4 touchdowns, because he's only gotten 4 touchdowns in like the past 3 or 4 seasons, right? And he's never had more than 4 touchdowns in a season. And he will this year. And let me tell you why. It's not because of Baker Mayfield. While he does play a part in that, being more competent, and that's what I'll say about Baker. He's more competent than Sam Darnold. Baker is a mid to below average quarterback for the NFL. All right, that's it. So while he's more competent than Sam Darnold, he won't be the reason that they win more games, if they win more games, which I don't think they will, or that DJ Moore scores more touchdowns. I think the main reason will be that Christian McCaffrey gets injured. Now, I know you're saying, oh, but he got injured last year and he didn't have more than 4. Well, he had a less competent quarterback last year. And then Sam Darnold got injured, okay? Baker Mayfield is more competent. He's going to be the starting quarterback for this job. And here's another thing. If you're going to trade Baker Mayfield, because I've had this talk, trade him like he will start because he's going to start. Baker Mayfield's going to be the starter for the Panthers this year. And because he is more competent than Sam Darnold, because Christian McCaffrey will get injured, DJ Moore is going to see 7 touchdowns this year. You heard that here, folks. Heard that here first, folks. 7 touchdowns from DJ Moore this year. All right, now wrapping it up. Falcons, first time I statted them out, had them winning 2 games. Then I went through it a few more times and I said, all right, I'll give them 3. And I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it simple with the Falcons because I don't want to watch one Falcons game this year, period. They're going to be the hottest trash, a big old dumpster fire, a joke of an NFL team. Marcus Mariota is not an NFL quarterback. They've got one real threat on that offense, and it's Kyle Pitts. Where Kyle Pitts is going as the third tight end overall, you won't see me draft any of him at all. Okay? There's no way he can produce the way we would need him to produce with Mariota as his quarterback. I am staying away from the Falcons. Now, sure, just because we saw Cordero, kind of do it himself last year, really be the only Falcon that was profitable, I think that he will have some good games this season. If I am drafting one Falcon, it's because I'm trying to go hero RB and I take Cordero late. Other than that, I'm not touching any of them. They're going to be awful. They're going to be garbage. That's it. That's all for today, folks. Falcons garbage, okay? Don't draft. Don't draft. Stay away. See y'all. Y'all take care.